Well, good morning. It is great to be here with all of you. We really appreciate you taking the time to come out and join us today at the beautiful Lifetime Work facility. Hopefully you've had a chance to look around here. Pretty incredible views of downtown. So feel free to grab food and beverage down the way. And a special thanks to Lifetime Work for hosting us today in this space. Before we kick off and introduce our panelists, I just wanted to share a little bit about some of the work that we have collectively been doing to support Reanimation for downtown Minneapolis. So as many of you know, we are doing a lot of collective work to invite people back and to connect with folks when they're here in downtown. And a couple of the things that have recently launched that I want to bring to your attention. Last week we launched a new What's New Downtown guide. And so if you haven't seen that, you can find that on Instagram. We partnered with Minivangelist and did that. And it's got a lot of really fun activities, both new and nostalgia, that you can check out. So if you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go to Instagram and look for the What's New Downtown guide. It makes a great, you can split it up into multiple days. You can spend a whole day checking it out, but encourage you to take a peek at that. And then the other thing that we have started to see, which is a lot of fun, and if you're not following along, last weekend was a big weekend for this past weekend for downtown. It was great to have the Vikings back in downtown, great to have all those fans there, and what was really incredible about that is we saw a lot of just collaboration and storytelling and cheering of one another on. So Hennepin Theater Trust, the Vikings, the Minnesota Orchestra, all collaborating, all excited to welcome patrons back and really thinking about how they can do that together and how they can amplify the shared news of what's going on downtown and how you too can participate in it. So we're really excited about what we're seeing, and today we want to talk a little bit more about how we continue to tell the story of what's happening downtown. And we have a few experts with us today who do this for a living and are really phenomenal at it. But all of you have a role to play in this as well, and so we want to share some of the insights that our panelists have, but then also just want to encourage you to help us tell our collective story and continue to invite people back to downtown. So let's dive in and meet our panelists. We'll start with Kaylin Rogers.
Great. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. My name is Kaylin Rogers, and I wear two hats. One as the Vice President of Marketing and Public Relations for the Telos Group, and a second for Telos' sister company, Altavia, where I'm Principal of Marketing and Public Relations. The project that you would know us for is the Dayton's Project here downtown, which we are very excited to be finally bringing online. So, more details to come on that soon.
Hi, it's a real person, real mic. Hi everyone, I'm Courtney Reese. I'm the Senior Vice President of Destination Branding and Strategy for Meet Minneapolis, which I often describe as being the fancy way of saying marketing, PR, our visitor center that is open at 5th and Nicollet, and then our partnership departments.
And hello, everyone. I'm Mark Remy. I'm the Director of Communications and Research with the Minneapolis Downtown Council. It's really focused on kind of the internal and external communications of our organization, including social media and public relations, our web content, marketing, and then just really trying to stay focused on a lot of the reanimation work that's happening downtown as well. So excited to be in the room with everyone today. This is really great, and I love the space. Thank you to Lifetime for being a part of this too.
It certainly feels good to be together, so this is great. So before we dive into more about storytelling, just share one thing that you love about downtown. And maybe, Mark, we'll start with you and kick it back towards Kaylin.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Southwest Minnesota, and I looked forward to coming downtown on trips all the time with my family. So I have these memories of coming up for Vikings games and Twins games, being a part of the energy and being a part of a community that was really something I looked forward to. It was very different from my hometown, and so for me, I've been working downtown for 10 years now and been able to be a part of a lot of great parts of downtown's history and story. A lot of great events that have happened in the last decade, a lot of great development, and a lot of great opportunity. And so every day that I'm downtown, I see things that remind me of when I was growing up coming down here, and it really re-energizes me. So really just kind of, thinking about, what it was like when I came up here, and being a part of it every day is really exciting and energizing. So I think that's probably my favorite part.
I think I can build off of that. In travel and tourism, we talk a lot about the sense of discovery and kind of unearthing gems, and I feel like that's something that happens across the city, but particularly in downtown. It doesn't matter how many times you've come and explored or spent time downtown. You walk by a different street, you see it in a different light, and there's a different story or there's a different experience that's waiting to be had, and I really like that sense of discovery and that sense of wonder that you can really find when you come in and you explore a city with open eyes.
Well, I think I would be remiss if I didn't say the Dayton's Project. But in addition to that, I mean, downtown Minneapolis is the beating heart of this entire region. It is the economic driver. It is the people driver. It is the reason that we're able to come together in business, in tourism, in bars and restaurants, in entertainment overall. And so I think we would be at a huge loss if we didn't have downtown Minneapolis, and I don't think that there is one item that I can pick out and say, that's my favorite bar, or that's my favorite theater to go to. It's sort of the entire ecosystem that exists.
Yeah, Kaylin, I love that. I think the ecosystem is such the right word for downtown, right? And there have been so many people working so hard to make sure that the whole ecosystem reanimates, because that's what makes it special, is you can come downtown not for 1 or 2 experiences, but you can have 3, 4, or 5 in one visit, which is awesome. So all of you are plugged into stakeholder groups to support reanimation work, but you all do this in your own day-to-day job as well. So I'd love for you to share a little bit around, not only the collective action we're all taking together, but then from your vantage point, what are you doing within each of your organizations to really help share the collective story for downtown? And Courtney, maybe we'll start with you.
Thanks. So obviously, really incredibly supportive, Leah, and the team have done a tremendous job, both in terms of creating the assets, right? All of the activations that have happened in town, that was so important on Thursdays to be able to have something to market, but then also the robust campaign that Leah and team have executed with Zeus Jones, and the opportunity to be able to promote and share that and invite people back is tremendously important and certainly resonates with everything and all of the messaging that we're trying to do. So Meet Minneapolis, in general, our job is to get people to come to the city, generally from outside the city, right? We want them to stay in the hotels, we want them to generate some tax revenue, and we want them to invest into our community financially. So for us, downtown really is the front door in many cases. It's where many of the sporting events happen, the conventions, obviously, even kind of just the experience of where people lay their heads, right, is primarily in downtown. So for us, this past summer, really invested a lot in animating and calling out all the events that were happening, an advertising campaign, focusing on the idea of make it a weekend. So maybe some of you have seen this. We've targeted a lot in social media, but that's really our kind of layer to the additional layer that Downtown Council is doing in terms of trying to invite people to come and stay overnight. So there has to be kind of this sense of, hey, there's so much stuff that's going on. Let this thing be the push that nudges you to spend the night and to really make the most of your experience. And I think that, from a PR standpoint, one of the big things that we do see a lot of right now is obviously there's a lot of the rubbernecking, I would say, in terms of what's going on with Minneapolis and what's going on with police and safety, and there's just a heightened sense of awareness, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But there is also opportunity in that. There's an increased presence and interest in small minority-owned businesses. There's an increased interest in what has happened in Minneapolis in the last 18 months. So that's something that we've really been able to work with a lot of journalists nationally and even internationally to be able to say, hey, look, we know that the city has changed. Let us show you some of the ways that it's changed. So that's a big part of the work that we're doing too.
Yeah, Mark, do you want to pick up from there?
Yeah, definitely. So, Courtney mentioned the Reanimation campaign and some of the work that we're doing there. And really, I think one of the biggest things about it is that I'm really focused on it being all about the individuals and what makes the energy of downtown, and really is about the people that come together like this space. Like, we're here together. We are a part of what builds the downtown energy and vibrancy that we've all come to expect and love over the years. And so really it kind of comes down to the concept of you are the best part. The best part is you, and really being focused on bringing people back downtown through a series of nudges, invitations for people to come back. and then really kind of weaving it into kind of all the messaging that we're doing. And so we've kind of adjusted our website to be less about the Downtown Council and more about the activities and programming and calendar of events that are happening in the downtown community, and providing kind of a place where people can gather and see what's happening, so they can kind of build their experiences, whether it's back to work or back to play. We're really focused on Instagram, and really driving people through seeing kind of those experiences that we're showing, really authentic experiences through our Instagram stories using the hashtag #MyMPLSDT. All of our platforms are kind of in that way, but really we're really focused on the Instagram experience. We're doing different giveaways to provide different ticket opportunities for people to come downtown and experience kind of that first time back potentially, or be in that first engagement with downtown, because we are seeing that when people do come down for the first time, they are more apt to come down again and again. It's kind of that first series or that first nudge of being able to be a part of the community again. So we're really focused on integrating the best part is you, the See You Downtown messaging into kind of everything that we're doing from a web and digital standpoint, and really showcasing that from a really authentic and engaging perspective, so that people can see how people are interacting and engaging when they do come downtown, and being able to gain that sense of, okay, I want to be a part of that experience too.
And Kaylin, I may ask you, so picking up on what Mark said, just this idea of making those consistent invitations, right? And so we have organizations across downtown that are doing that so well right now, but talk to us a little bit about why those invitations matter.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. And I know you and I have talked about this offline. So I have to say first, the Downtown Council has done an exceptional job of researching, of engaging with the community, of coming up with a really solid framework, foundation, foothold to get people to start coming back downtown. That means they've done their work, they'll continue to do their work, but it's up to you, it's up to me, it's up to all of us together to start some guerrilla marketing. It means inviting your colleagues back downtown. It means inviting your friends to coffee or happy hour, or even just to go on a walk. You don't have to spend money to be downtown. And so that's something that we've taken very seriously in concert with the Dayton's Project, is really extending those invitations. Asking your friend to come join you for something, asking your colleague to come join you for something here in the downtown, because based off of the research, we understand that if you come down one time, you're going to come down again, but even more important than that, downtown is a place that we can come together, where we can socialize, where we can connect. It reminds us of why offices and restaurants and places to gather exist in the first place. Plus, it's fun. So invite everyone you know to come hang out with you. Come hang out with all of us here downtown.
Thanks, Kaylin. And Courtney, as you think about invitations, yes, there's a lot of day-to-day invitations that are happening as well, but when you guys think about that from a Meet Minneapolis perspective, you're also thinking about what's ahead, right? And so we have some big invitations in our market, and maybe share a little bit of those as well.
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of pent-up demand for a lot of things. We've seen this across the consumer life cycle, and meetings and conventions are no different. So obviously we had a lot of business that was on the books at the Minneapolis Convention Center, and sporting events that were supposed to occur in 2020 and 2021. A lot of those things moved into the next available dates, which in a lot of cases moved into 2022, 2023. So next year we really do have an exceptional lineup of both high-profile sporting events, starting with the Winter Classic, which will be at Target Field. I believe tickets go on sale to the public tomorrow. So if you want to kind of have more Wild fans than Blues fans, get on that. But also really large groups like Youth Lutheran, 30,000 delegates that will be coming to town in July. So some really large, impactful walking around, people with badges looking for places to eat, drink, experience the city that we really haven't been able to see in the past couple of years. So it will be a very busy convention calendar, and we are very confident. We have seen all of those numbers and all of those groups maintain and hold. Well, we do know that Delta continues to impact the travel industry disproportionately. As we look at 2022, it's a really exciting time to be able to have that layer, just one of the layers as we talk about the ecosystem, but have that layer of meetings and conventions come back is a really important one.
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. So I'd love to talk a little bit, because we hear it all the time in our market. We hear people talk about perception of downtown. And we all know it's true. We're battling perception right now. And so I'd love to just hear from your perspective, what is your experience as you are downtown? There is in the media, in social media, this very outsized perception of downtown. So talk to us a little bit about, what you are experiencing, what you are seeing, and how you would lend your voice to that. So maybe Mark, we'll start with you and work towards Kaylin.
Yeah,
Have
for
all
sure.
three of you? Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. So I started working downtown regularly in May. So it's been, I'm about 3 or 4 months into being downtown every day, and I've continued to see, more and more people on the streets in the Skyway over the course of the summer. It was very noticeable, and we also do track, through our Reanimation dashboard and some of the metrics and research that we do, and we know that we were at about 36% or so of the typical employees number downtown in September, which is about 20 percentage points higher than it was in May. And so we know that there was this continuous build throughout the course of the year. And so for me, that just reinforced what we were seeing on the street at downtown Thursdays when we went out and went to the farmers market and the makers market on Thursday afternoons, or we go and we see people doing yoga at PV Plaza, some of the different activities and experiences that are out there over the course of the summer. We saw more and more people coming down, and then we take our walks down to whether it's Green in the Grain or Afro Deli or some of the places in the Skyway for lunch, and you start seeing more and more people in those crowds walking toward getting in line. It's noticeable, and it was definitely something that I was able to see over the course of the summer and into the fall here. And now, as we're getting back into seeing more and more live events happening with the Twins over the course of the summer, the Lynx had a nice run through the regular season into the playoffs, and now we got the Vikings coming back and the experiences that they bring with it. They had the Dustin Lynch concert outside of the stadium on Sunday. You're seeing more and more of those activities, along with having more and more people kind of coming back downtown. So that's been my experience. It's just kind of that gradual growth, that incremental growth of seeing more and more people, and that's what has kind of been exciting to me to see.
I think that a big part of it is what I call the head and the heart approach. So safety is a really, really deeply personal thing, and a perception of safety is an incredibly personal thing. So how one person feels walking down the street is not how somebody else is going to feel, and if you're a resident of a city, it might be different than how you are feeling as a visitor of the city. So, when we kind of take some of this approach as we talk about downtown, there's the arguments to be made as we kind of take a look at first precinct crime, right? That anybody that's joined any of those calls can see that the 4-year rolling average is actually decreased in some of those, in the violent crime when it comes to the first precinct, which is much of downtown. But that doesn't really matter if I feel unsafe when I walk down the street, or I feel like I can't cross the street without getting panhandled or somebody approaching me. I think what happened, obviously, is there, and data can show this and research can show this, that when there are large traumatic things that happened, like the murder of George Floyd, like the social unrest, like everything that we saw, felt in the city, no one can tell you that they felt comfortable walking around their neighborhood seeing the National Guard and that made them feel good. Some people made them feel safe, some people made them feel less safe, but regardless, it was something that was not normal, and I think that lingers. So there is absolutely a heightened sense of awareness, and I'm sure that there's some research out there somewhere that shows that, for every 25 positive stories, it just takes one negative story, and I think that that's one of the things that we are fighting right now and will continue to fight in. So how do you offset that, knowing that there will continue to be bad stories that happen, because that's the nature of the world. So what do you do to address that and to approach that? And I think that a big part of that is continuing to encourage people to see things with their own eyes and having some hard conversations. So it means when your neighbor says, oh, I was downtown, or oh my gosh, you go downtown for work, or like, what's it like? That it is your job to say, you know what? It's not that bad, or you know what, it feels really different than it did last year, or I went and did this and it was great and it was fun and it was safe, or I go down every day, or I go down once a week, or whatever it may be. It's going to take that cumulatively from many, many people across social media channels that aren't just ours as marketers, but friends and families and the neighbors saying, yeah, this is an okay place to be and you should see it with your own eyes. And it is going to be a long game, and I think that that's something that we all know, but we're committed to trying to accelerate it as fast as we can to get people back as fast as we can. And some of that too, I will also say, just as a side note, is also going to other cities and seeing what it's like to walk around other downtowns, because I've walked around LA, Denver, and Baltimore in the last 2 months. And I can tell you that that perception of safety felt very different than my perception of safety walking around Minneapolis. So sometimes it is getting some of those outside perspectives too that can help remind us of what we're really facing in our own destination, and the positive things that are continuing to happen here.
Yeah, I think building exactly off of that, I have 2 answers to this question. So answer number 1 is, this is not a Minneapolis problem. This is a national problem. We all have dealt with a racial reckoning. We've dealt with a global pandemic, right? These are issues that are in the suburbs. They're in rural communities. They're in our downtowns across the nation. So this is not a Minneapolis thing, and it's up to all of us to work together to overcome that perception. So topic number 2, answer number 2, is that perception, as we know, is reality. And so it's really important, like you said, to have those individual conversations, and I would push you to go even further. Instead of saying downtown isn't that bad, say, I love going downtown and here's why. I feel safe downtown and here's why. And you should come back downtown and here's why. And you can share those personal reasons, and they should be individual. They should be personal to you. That'll be more persuasive, that'll be more powerful. But feel comfortable telling your story, sharing your story. I can tell you personally that last summer I did not feel good downtown. This summer, very different story. And so I can own that as a relatively young white woman, come into a room and say, of all of the people who would feel unsafe, I would be the demographic who would feel pretty unsafe, and I feel very safe. And I like going downtown, and I like walking the streets, and I like walking the skyways. Use that, use your own story, and tell people why they should come back downtown.
Awesome. You guys brought up some really great points. And I think, one is to just underscore that downtowns across the country have concerns, right? But all downtowns are on this journey to kind of figure out what's the next pace for downtown, right? And what does that look like for us? And Minneapolis is very much on that journey. But I think something that all 3 of you struck a chord on is just this idea of how do we humanize the experience, right? And I think what we're finding is that's what people need. It doesn't take very long to form a new habit. And in fact, I think they say after 7 or 8 weeks, it is very difficult to change that new habit that you've created. And now we've, had a more flexible work from home remote policy for a lot of people for 15 months, right? And so I would love to hear from each of you as downtown Minneapolis is finding our new pace. How can we really work together to humanize the story, to be able to invite more people into that story and help them see themselves downtown? Mark, let's start with you.
Sounds good. Well, I do think authentic communication and sharing and showcasing how people are engaging in the space is really important, and being able to really help to identify some of those stories and share on social media. I think social media can be a really great tool, and as Courtney said, it has to be kind of collectively. It can't just necessarily be from the Downtown Council's account all the time. It needs to be kind of the collective experience of what people are feeling and what they're seeing and how they're engaging in downtown. So I think in one area, it's definitely being able to try and help showcase those experiences and get those out there. Sharing the hashtags that we've got out there, and being a part of the conversation from that perspective, but really being able to help share collectively, because I think the organic experiences and authentic experiences are going to make a really big difference in the effort. And then also just, from our perspective, the tools online to be able to say, this is where you can find information about how you can engage in downtown. And, we've said for a long time, or we've always said that converging events move the needle, and being, it's not just about the one, event that you might be coming down for. It's the full experience of how you are engaging in downtown. And so, offering a place and a space, whether it's on our website or on social media, sharing the information of what is happening on any given day, so that you can kind of really build up your experience, whether you're coming back to enjoy something in particular, coming back to work and being able to go out and enjoy the space outside, because we do collectively have this great public space downtown that we can gather together and that we've long enjoyed. So I think that's a big part of it. And then for us too, we are really trying to have that authentic conversation about what really is happening downtown, and share that voice about how people are coming together and convening, and all of the work that's being done to kind of help to build that strong and vibrant community that we've always known to be true. And so really kind of interjecting that voice into the conversation is a big part of it as well.
Sure. So what I would say to this is that you all have all of the tools that you use on a daily basis as being a natural storyteller. So if you text your family, if you call people, if you are an Instagrammer, a Snapchatter, or you really like making TikTok videos, I'm sure all of you are in that camp. Use those channels, be authentic to yourself, tell your own story. We all do that every day, all the time. Just add downtown into your story as you tell it. I like to think of marketing in general as creating sort of a cool kids club, and so you can make people feel really left out if they're not a part of the cool kids club. So have downtown be where the cool kids come together. Make people feel sad and sorry that they're not here hanging out with you while you tell your own stories.
I think that the ongoing, what's new, what's next, the first, and again, if you are down here, you are seeing it. So you are, the anticipation of the Dayton's project and kind of building that. I think that sense of build is also going to be something, because we do know it's going to take some people a while. And I do think as we kind of talk about the habits and remote work, I think that this is something too where people just have to have a moment of serendipity that happens face to face, to say, oh yeah, I guess you're right. I guess that couldn't have happened if I was on a Zoom. Or, oh yeah, you're right. I guess I wouldn't have known this about a colleague, or I wouldn't have heard this great thing, or somebody would have mentioned in passing. And it's really intangible like that. And that's part of the reason that's so hard, right? Because we're always trying to be so optimized for everything. And, I'm in more meetings now than I ever was, and I was in a lot of meetings before, right? So there's a lot of people who are saying, but I don't have to travel, right? Like just click out and click in. So that maybe isn't necessarily the best either. And I think that's one of the things that we're realizing, and even just, seeing people here and having conversations and making connections, those things have to happen to really give you your own proof points so that you can then go and tell people to say, yeah, no, I had this thing and it was actually really great, and I really am excited to eat conference food again, or, same type of argument in our industry.
And I'm giving you permission to be un-Minnesotan about it. You are allowed to brag about the cool stuff that you do, especially if it's for a higher purpose, like maintaining our downtown.
I love that. So let's share some more examples of how folks can help with this, right? So, Kaylin, you've said it before, but FOMO is real, right? The Cool Kids Club is real. And I think for those of us who are down here on a regular basis, like, we're seeing all the good that's happening downtown. We're seeing new things that are being built. We're seeing new stores and restaurants that are opening. We're seeing more fans and patrons come back to those collective urban experiences. And I think a lot of us wonder, like, how come more people aren't enjoying this, Like, I brought my kids out to a Twins game this summer, and I was like, wow, people are missing out. Like, we had an awesome time, right? So, as we're pushing into fall and winter, I think a lot of us are seeing, like, tides are turning, right? Vikings have full stadiums, orchestra, Frozen is coming to Hennepin Theater Trust, right? And more people will be coming here. So how can we really think about, as we push into fall and winter, helping people to really think about those collective urban experiences that they can come participate in, or even the future of work and what that could look like for them. So how are you all doing that? How are your organizations doing that? And Kaylin, let's start with you.
Well, we are opening up the Dayton's Project, so hopefully that'll be something that draws people in. But I would say the answer to this is incredibly individual, right? Some people are going to want to go to a game. Some people are going to want to go to a show. Some people are just going to want to take a walk across the Stone Arch Bridge. Whatever it is that works for you, make a plan to do it. Tell people about the plan and share after you've done it. It's just really important. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for you to tell your own story in a way that's authentic to you. It's not going to be as effective if you just reshare the posts that we're putting out there. If you add your own commentary to it, if you add your own flavor to it, that will be much, much more effective. So when you come to the Dayton's Project to shop in the Makers Market that we're opening in November, share that. Show people what you're doing. Invite your friends along. Anything that you're doing downtown, tell people about it. It's that additional communication. It's more than just doing it. It's being an ambassador for downtown. And you're here today, which means that you care, just like all of us care. So share what you're doing. And I do that personally. We do that as an organization, and I would challenge all of you to do it as well.
I think sometimes if you are in your house on Zoom, you forget that the rest of the world keeps turning. And I think that, one of the things that was really amazing for us when we started to do some of our pitching at the beginning of summer was to say, look at all of this stuff that has opened up in Minneapolis in the last 18 months. And there's a ton of it. And, people kept churning. I mean, maybe it wasn't the same cycle that it had been before, but there are still some really incredible things that have happened and opened. Awamni, obviously, and is a very high profile one, but there's a lot of smaller things too, Prospect Park, all the things that are happening there, but also in downtown with the Dayton's project, with coconut whisk. I love bubble tea. My son loves bubble tea. This is a thing that we do, and to have that available downtown is actually a really great, interesting asset and something new and exciting for me to be able to share with my family. So I think that all of those things are really beneficial. But also, I think, especially as you get into the holiday season, is that sense of nostalgia, right? Again, so I swear she didn't pay me to say this, but Dayton's project, right? Like there's such a emotive, heartfelt thing with that and what that means to the city. And if you think about the holidays and lights, and let's go see downtown in lights, and you saw some of this with Aquatennial, I think that those are those types of inroads too. So maybe what's new and what's next doesn't do it for me, but maybe the nostalgia does. So I think that those are also some things to kind of keep in mind, especially depending on who you want to share those experiences with.
Yeah, we were so energized as an organization with Aquatennial and seeing so many people come down for the parade and the fireworks, and it was a reminder of just how much fun it is to get everyone together collectively. It was one of the first big events that I had been to since the pandemic started, and so being able to be a part of that and doing it right along Nicollet or right along the riverfront, that was really, again, just an eye-opening and exciting moment for us, and I think it really energized us throughout the course of the week. And looking ahead, Holidazzle's on the horizon as well. There are great experiences that are coming again that we can get together in person and enjoy. And so I think that that's another thing that we're really looking forward to as an organization. Both touched on it, but the restaurant community downtown has long been so celebrated, and we still have, it's still here, and it's only growing and expanding. We have almost 300 restaurants and retail stores open in the downtown community right now, and I don't know if everyone realizes that, but there's a lot of great places to still come down to that have either reopened or have been open the whole time, and we have more that continue to open in the North Loop and along the river, and so we're going to continue to see more and more spaces and locations open that we can, again, share and engage and tell people about. And some of those new spaces are going to be great for gaining interest, and then sharing what that experience was like, and then bring people down for other activities and events. And so it all kind of comes together, but it's exciting. There's a lot still going on here, and I think it's time to get out and have those brunches that we used to do, and be a part of the experience.
I think that opening list too is a tremendous resource if you haven't checked it out, or if you haven't shared that with folks, just for planning purposes, because again, some of that narrative is so strong. Oh, there's nowhere for me to eat in the Skyway, things aren't open, things like that. There has been, through the entire pandemic, a very robust list that has been kept up quite frequently by the Downtown Council, and we have used that over and over again. I encourage you to do that, whether it's with employees or with friends or anyone else that you've got around it. It really is a nice, the head argument to kind of get people to come back.
And for a heart argument, drag your friends to lunch. Drag them. Take them to the spots that are open, your favorite spots, make them go with you. Offer to buy their lunch if you're feeling friendly, but make people go.
Yeah, I love that. I think it is so important to remember that downtown is here. We're ready, and people are engaging, and we want more people to engage with regularity. Courtney, you kind of harken back to a point we talk a lot about, is this idea of the nostalgia and the new, right? Because it does kind of help, with the head and the heart, but it gives people something to remember that they can hang on to, but also something to look forward to as they think about re-engaging with downtown. So would love to kind of, I'm sorry, but put each of you on the spot a little bit to share, just to help cultivate some ideas with the folks here today. What's kind of your highlight nostalgia experience and new experience? So I'll give you guys a minute to think. Kaylin, you maybe are ready. Why don't you hop in?
Yeah, of course. Again, my answer is easy because the Dayton's Project. Yes. So nostalgia, super easy. The Dayton's window displays, right? Who didn't love those, or at least knew someone who'd grown up going to see them? Even if you're new to Minnesota, you know that story. So we will be bringing those back this year. You heard it here first, which is pretty exciting. So I'm really invested in the storytelling and the nostalgia of downtown Minneapolis. Dayton's is a huge part of that. But personally, I love checking out all of the new restaurants. I think people who know me can attest to that I do, in fact, drag my friends to things and try out all the different spots, because we have such a unique food culture here, and I love eating, so those go together really well.
I also love to eat, so I say that restaurants, continues to, there's always a new one, and there's always an entrepreneur to support, and there's always a story if you're willing to look for it. I think from the nostalgia aspect, for me, it really is kind of the arts and culture scene. So I'm a boomerang. I grew up in South Metro and then left for a very long time. But I remember when I was a kid, it was going to a show and getting fancy, right, to go see a show, and then maybe we got to go out to eat at a place that wasn't Red Lobster or the Olive Garden, so this was like a really big deal. And so for me now, when I think about my kids and taking them to see a performance or getting dressed up or going to see the lights, it really does give it that glow, and I think that the arts community really does provide so many easy inroads to do that, especially the orchestra and the amount of programming that they have. It's exceptional and very varied and really accessible. So I really encourage people to check that out if you're looking for something to do. With any age group, they probably have something that meets that, especially around the holiday season.
For me, it never gets old being down along the riverfront and on the Stone Arch Bridge and being around just the skyline view and people running and biking and St. Anthony Falls. I have a lot of memories down there, and then I also have a lot of memories around U.S. Bank Stadium, formerly Metrodome, just having coming up over the course of growing up and being in that space, and it always brings me back being in both of those areas. So I think that just kind of getting back into the event space again and going to games and concerts and whatever is being held over there or over in the Warehouse District, North Loop area, I'm just really excited about that, and it always brings back memories for me. And I think over the last decade, we've had such great development downtown. We've celebrated a lot of openings. We've celebrated a lot of new spaces. And I think over the next 9 months or so, we're sitting in 30 right now with Lifetime Work. This was exciting for me to see this open, and the Dayton's Project is right around the corner. I am really excited too about that, and I think it's going to be such a fantastic space right in the heart of downtown for us to enjoy every day walking through and getting out to enjoy whatever you want, whether it's going through the Skyway to the Makers Market, on your way to grab something to eat. Great spaces. And then we can see RBC Gateway over there behind us as well, and that's another exciting project that is going to be coming online here in the next 9 months or so. And so I think there's just a lot of great development and excitement coming online here, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it.
Yeah, I love those. Those are great ideas. And I would just say to all of you who are here, challenge you to think differently about how you engage with downtown. If you are back working regularly, if you are living downtown, think about a different experience that you could have to help support the full ecosystem, right? So if you're not typically an arts or theater goer, maybe try it out. You probably will be surprised. Take in a game, think about how you can support the restaurant community or some of the new retailers that have opened downtown. Maybe make it a weekend and stay in a hotel. I know we have a girls' weekend coming up, just to do some of that and to invite people and bring them along and kind of reintroduce downtown and make it feel accessible again to folks. So would really encourage you all to do that, and they have provided some really great ideas of how to do that. So you all are storytellers by trade. You're incredible at it. You also all follow the news, probably more than most people do, just because it's 24/7 in your world. And so a lot of what we have talked about collectively in this work is just how we really want to elevate the good. And so I would love to hear, how are you elevating the good, but also maybe you have an example over the last, few months or recently around a story that you want to amplify again here in this audience, that people maybe miss, that they don't know that this is happening downtown. So should we just run down the line again? Okay.
So I think something that I actually think has been well publicized, but maybe some people don't know about, are the Downtown Thursdays that the Downtown Council did. Those were exceptional. I thought it was a really smart strategy. Pick a day, get people downtown, give them things to do that are curated and activated. So I think that's a really good example of good things happening, but I also think that you should come back downtown to make your own good things happen. This is all about the interpersonal connections that you have, and so while there might be a great story of, you know, a firefighter saving a kitten out of a tree, like, what's really going to matter for you is the stories that you create here. This is your backdrop, this is your opportunity, and people need to understand that. I think it's really important, and I don't mean to be dramatic about this, but this is a little bit of an existential crisis for downtown. If people don't re-engage, if they don't see the opportunities here, if they don't see the good in downtown, we lose our most critical economic driver. Right? We lose an integral part of our community. We lose a part of what makes Minnesota, Minnesota, not even just Minneapolis, Minneapolis. So make your own good stories and tell people about them.
We keep a spreadsheet. So if you're ever looking for good stories, you know, we have them, and we share them because, you know, it's become so common, right? Where people say, well, what do I, you know, what is positive, what is happening, what are the changes that are happening in Minneapolis, what are people doing, and it is remarkable to be able to kind of say big and small. And I think, you know, a lot of times we kind of originally started, I'll take a slight deviation here, you know, with our messaging right after George Floyd was killed, that we were a city that was going to be leading the path forward. And it really became clear through that city kind of became a loaded connotation, and it really became more of it's the community. And it's the people that live and work and do support this community. And that's the larger kind of Minnesota story. And the amount of people that want to see this city succeed, I have to believe is still more than want to see it fail. So, you know, while we know that locally we struggle a lot, and I can show you research from this, Leah can show you, Mark can show you research from this, you know, that talks about our local perception is more challenging than our national perception, and it's we've lost our biggest brand advocates. And it's because people feel it really emotionally and they feel it really personally. And I think that people should question, but I also think that people do, and to the point, need to make that decision to re-engage. And so what I think when I think about positive stories are all the folks that are continuing to, you know, re-sign or move their headquarters downtown. Deluxe is in our building and will be reopening. We'll be opening up their offices downtown in November. So I do think that there's continues to be those types of things that are also showing, yeah, there may be the story that says, oh, I left is very sensational, but for every story there is something that says, but I came. And I think that those are the ones that are also really exciting because that's also in mass, and those are really important voices too.
Definitely, and it does come down to those personal experiences. I think about, you know, how I engage on a day-to-day basis when I'm downtown versus when I'm like taking Zoom calls at home or whatever. And, you know, it's those pop-ins to, you know, say hi to colleagues, or maybe you can get a couple of things done on your punch list really quickly, popping your head in the door versus, you know, having to try and set up a call or something like that. And then how many times do you end up running into someone randomly in the Skyway and are able to just say, hey, you know, we got to get this meeting on the books or whatever it might be. Being able to see people face to face, I think that those are parts of the experiences and parts of the stories that we, you know, have to continue to remember and tell, because it's a different environment being here in office, right down the street, right through the Skyway, than it is when you're sitting in your home office. And so I think like reminding ourselves and reminding others that, I think that makes a big impact too.
Yeah, definitely. You all have been very involved in kind of our collective work to support Reanimation, and so would love for you to just talk a little bit more around how you are pulling those kind of collective messages through the work of your organization and kind of what's coming up here at the end of this year and into next year, and then also how you're continuing to build upon those. So Courtney, maybe we'll start with you and then go to Mark and Kaylin.
She set me up with that one. So, you know, obviously we know, as we've talked about, that it's a multi-year recovery. The forecast for the hotel to meet 2019 occupancy levels is looking like it's going to be 2024. So, you know, we went down to less than 4% occupancy in Minneapolis, one of the hardest hit cities as far, you know, COVID, and that's before everything happened with George Floyd. So, you know, we know that we are building and we are going on an uphill climb. So we do have some large-scale marketing and PR efforts that we are looking to do in 2022 that are larger than we've ever been able to do as an organization, pulling on some funds that we've been able to secure through grants and various other means. And one of the other things that we are doing is, again, from a collective standpoint, working with the Downtown Council, working with the Chamber, other partners, including BOMA and Hennepin Theater Trust and Greater MSP and the Greater Minneapolis Hotel Association, looking to find some additional outside support for kind of this larger reputation management program of work. So that's a program of work that we are building, and we are going on an uphill climb. So we do have some large-scale marketing and PR efforts that we are looking to do in 2022 that are larger than we've ever been able to do as an organization, pulling on some funds that we've been able to secure through grants and various other means. And one of the other things that we are doing is, again, from a collective standpoint, working with the Downtown Council, working with the Chamber, other partners, including BOMA and Hennepin Theater Trust and Greater MSP and the Greater Minneapolis Hotel Association, looking to find some additional outside support for kind of this larger reputation management program of work. So that's a program of work that we've approached a couple agencies with. All are very interested in investing. I think that's the other thing, is that our community of marketers and PR professionals in the city believe in the city and they want to make it better. And I would be remiss if I didn't kind of call out the agency support that has come throughout all of our organizations, but other organizations as well, during such a challenging time. So we'll be kind of engaging in some of that work and to doing some things collectively as well, knowing that we'll continue to do all of our own face-to-face, getting people boots on the ground, bringing in meeting planners, bringing in tours, having them see it, and kind of continuing to try and grow, and as I just talked about, accelerate the recovery. That's really the name of the game for us.
Yeah, we continue to monitor all of our dashboards and tracking to make sure we know kind of what the trends are looking like in terms of back to office and, you know, light rail transit and dining and Courtney, you guys are always great about hospitality and just kind of making sure that we're tracking where we're at from that standpoint. Also continue to track from kind of a back to office survey perspective and pulse study perspectives on just kind of really gaining information about, you know, who in the collective area is coming downtown, why they're coming downtown, the frequencies they are, and then some of the impacts that has as well. And so we're trying to really be kind of data driven and focused and informed on who is coming downtown so that we can really be strongly informed from that perspective. From the reanimation campaigns work, you'll continue to see what we're putting out there from a CU downtown perspective, weaved into membership email communications through our social media. Continue to have our website in that same feel and look, and then you'll also start seeing more and more digital campaigns coming online to different websites. You'll start seeing it kind of through the radio or listening through the radio. You'll see some TV ads from that perspective too. And so we're kind of weaving in, different areas on billboards and in the skyways, and being able to really kind of collectively have our message out there and have those subtle invitations for people to come back, because again, as we know, that when people start coming back once, they will come back again. And so, trying to be really informed, but then also really trying to be very present and intentional about where we show up.
I think one of the things that deserves some calling out in the reanimation process is in fact the process that the Downtown Council went through. And so this is a big shtick for me, is you can't come up with messages in a bubble. They are not going to resonate. No one's going to care what you have to say. And so I want to applaud the Downtown Council for the work that they did in working with a community that had been pretty traumatized and was sensitive. We were all sensitive after some pretty horrible events happened. And so the Downtown Council worked closely with people to hear what they had to say, what they thought, what was going to resonate with them, and from there has built a really strong framework that all of us can use. So the reanimation campaign, inviting people to come back downtown, helping people understand that each individual is the best part of downtown, that's messaging that we are able to deploy and that we're able to trust is going to work for our audiences as well, because of the holistic background work that the Downtown Council did. So I would encourage you to take that framework and to deploy it however makes sense to you, but it's pretty simple, it's pretty authentic, and it resonates really well.
Thanks, Kaylin. And thanks to all of you. It's been a great conversation. I think as we wrap up, we will open it up for some questions from the audience. So as you're thinking about that, as I look around the room today, we have a lot of incredible brand champions with us. We have different industries represented. We have different talent expertise represented. And I would just love for you all to provide some ideas of how the group here can continue to help us uplift stories that are going to help to move downtown forward into the future. So let's do that. Mark, you want to send it back this way?
Yeah, sure. Well, again, we've talked a little bit about it throughout, but the authentic experiences and the conversations, telling your story, encouraging others to tell your story, I think that's really critical and important piece. And we, feel free to always tag us when you're downtown at mpls downtown. Use the hashtag #myMPLSDT. We want to be able to help share your story as well, and to be able to tell those tales. So. I think those two things are really important to us, and we're more than happy to help, in amplifying that message as well. We've talked about the Reanimation campaign. The other thing I would say is go to our website, mplsdowntown.com, scroll down to the bottom, and all of the assets are there and available if you are interested in using them. It's a full brand guideline. It gives information on how to use it. Some are already created. Others can be built based off of kind of the toolkit that's provided. And so collectively, as organizations downtown, we can help tell the story and have kind of that look and feel that continues to give those nudges and invitations. So those are a couple ways for sure.
The Bachelorette is coming to town. I have not watched the show in 20 years since I was in a sorority house, but if you feel like you don't have that story or you've run out of your own stories, you can amplify the other stories. And so one of the things that I've been talking about is that this is the first time that Minneapolis has been on the national landscape, basically since civil unrest that isn't, riots or a sports game or trial, right? So those are the images that are in people's minds about what they think of when they think of Minneapolis. And the number of conversations and questions that we get of people that say, well, can I walk from downtown to 38th in Chicago? Or, people saying, can I go and film at 38th in Chicago, right? There's a lot of confusion about what is happening and what continues to happen here and what the city feels like, or what's been closed and what's been open and things like that. There will be a lot of airtime for the city, including downtown, starting in November. So don't be afraid if there's something else, or you feel like you've run out of your stories, you've run out of your ideas, or you need that permission to brag, or the most Minnesotan thing ever. Leah's not going to brag, but I'll brag about Leah, right? Like that type of thing. This is somebody that's going to be doing the bragging for you, and you can share that, and you can amplify that message as well. So there's something else.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, is that we have a collective group of storytellers here. And the entire point of coming together in person is collaboration and synergy and building relationships. So you've already done that today. So find someone in this room, find a thought partner outside of this room that you want to get engaged and have conversations with and spark some creativity. What are you doing that you can get really excited about, that you can share authentically with people? I don't care if it's a nice walk. I don't care if it's looking at some fall leaves downtown. I don't care if it's sharing a story from one of your other partners. It could be big, it could be small, but what is really going to get you energized? Because when you're energized, you're going to make everyone else around you energized. And that's what we need. We need some momentum, we need some passion, we need some enthusiasm. And I think all of us in here today can bring that to the table.
So true. We love the energy. And to your point and to Mark's earlier point, it has been building since this summer, and it feels good to be downtown. And so just do it, right? I mean, we'll just claim Nike's slogan for a minute and just do it, right? Just post something, challenge yourself today to invite somebody out to lunch or to coffee, to post something on your social media that helps people to understand your experience downtown. And we'd be grateful for your partnership in that regard. And as you heard, here to help you with that as well. So I would love to open it up for some questions. Kaylin, Courtney, and Mark have a lot of expertise to offer, and so would love to just open it up for any questions from anyone in the room. Don't be shy.
Well, I don't necessarily have a question, but I have an endorsement that falls in line. So last week I was here for the Lifetime Work grand opening. Same day I was at a ribbon cutting for Bell Bank. I got some business done that day. I saw people, I made new connections. And then Saturday night, my husband and I came downtown for dinner at Ocean Air, which we couldn't get a reservation. We made a reservation a week ago, and we couldn't get in until 8:30 at night. And my husband's 67. But we did anyway, and it was hopping. Yeah. It was absolutely hopping down here Saturday night. And I've been coming anyway but it was just a moment for me of last week was like, oh yeah, I should get out of my house. Yeah, so it's an endorsement.
Thanks, Mary Beth. Robert?
Yeah, I'll ask you a question. So we talked a little bit about perception and perception get them to tell the stories that we want them to tell?
Yeah, Robert, it's such a great question. And
Can you repeat the question just for online viewers?
yes, absolutely. So the question was, everyone here is doing their part around social media, but if we think more around broadcast traditional media, how do we get our local media to tell a story that is maybe more accurate or not as sensationalized around what's happening downtown and perception of safety? So Kaylin's nodding, so I'll let you start, and then if either of you want to tag on.
So I think one of the things that I've learned in my years in public relations is you cannot control the media. Every individual reporter, editor is their own human being, and they're going to try and tell a story that they believe is true. So the story that they believe is true goes on the news, other people believe that that's true. So the thing that I would say is we need to bring as many reporters, editors, folks involved in the media downtown as possible. And we're doing our part as the Dayton's Project, planning explicit media events to get people down, to get them to see it, to get them to experience it. But we are all victims of our own perceptions where we're not pushing out of our box, and media is no different. So let's help them understand a different kind of reality, and it's going to be a slow process. We're changing an entire perception, so we just need to keep plugging away at it. There are going to be bad stories. There will continue to be bad stories. But if we can counteract that by the number of positive stories that we can work to tell and by the number of relationships and minds that we can change, then we will ultimately win the battle.
I think to Kaylin's point, there is a little bit of the idea that can you overwhelm in a positive way at a moment in time? So when businesses started to reopen, when we first launched Make It a Weekend, brought in a series of influencers to be able to show things so that if people were following a number of influencers in the market, that hopefully they would be able to see positive stories all at once, and that would be that thing before a negative story kind of re-entrenched itself to tip them over to come downtown and to do that weekend or do that experience. I do think that it will continue to take more and more of those things and more of people and those individual personal experiences. And I do think that again, it's the recognition that people remember negative news way more than they remember positive news, and understanding that will be something that we'll continue to face. So we're going to continue to have to address it, and it's not just going to be a one and done.
And we can't always control what that story is going to be when we get a phone call about, hey, would you like to talk about this, or if you have an opportunity to be a part of a story. But there's always the opportunity to kind of have that critical voice within, and so being able to really kind of tell the positive, or at least kind of more of the, the factual based of this plays along with that particular story, and being able to interject the voice a little bit is always helpful too. And so that there's always kind of that piece. But when there are stories that are out there that may have a little bit more of a negative tone to them, just being able to kind of have that voice within, and we certainly try and have that as well.
The last thing that I would say on this is that it's a lot harder to have organic growth of a good story. It's much easier when gunshots go off, the cameras arrive there. But you guys are boots on the ground. You know the good stuff that's happening. So if you see a good story, if you have a good idea, let's talk to me about it. Let's figure out a way to put it out in the media, to get people's eyes on it. That'll be good for you and your organization, and it'll be good for downtown.
Yeah, Kaylin, I love that. I think one of the things that I would just echo that Kaylin said is we are all here to help all of us be successful. So if there are ideas, if there are thoughts, if you have story ideas, we have a lot of people that will ping to say, hey, I'm lending my voice to this story. I'm going to talk to this reporter. Can you give me any tips or thoughts, right? We want to help everyone be successful. So certainly reach out, but remember, it is not a page flip, right? We have to stay on this and know that you have commitment from the folks here and many more stakeholders across downtown to consistently push good stories forward, because that's what it's going to take. Other questions? We have time for another one if someone else, yes?
Hi, so as you're kind of thinking about reanimation in downtown, and this is kind of a transitional moment, I'm really interested to get your thoughts on kind of the duality of investing ahead of a need to build a draw versus waiting for the draw to then backfill the need, and how to maybe navigate some of those changes as we all move to reanimate together.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I will try and summarize, but correct me if I go wrong. So she was just asking, as it relates to kind of the work that we're doing on reanimation, talk a little bit about the duality of that work, right? So investing now for the future, or waiting for kind of that moment to start to really put more emphasis around resource. So who wants to start with that one? Kaylin? Yeah. Okay.
Very good question. I think about that every day, all the time. I'm not sure that there is one answer to that. So I'll speak about this specifically from the Dayton's Project perspective, right? We can't just take a build it and they will come, because if no one's coming, then you've built something that's great and no one's arriving. So it's a little bit of investment ahead, but still pushing people from behind. So getting people excited about stuff at the same time that you're building things out, and sort of monitoring on the ground as best you can what's going on a day-to-day basis. And things throw you for a loop. Delta threw us for a loop, right? And so I have learned in the last couple of years to not make promises about any date that anything is going to happen, because you don't know. So couching the language, working closely one-on-one with stakeholders, I think, again, this all comes down to personal relationships. And so working with people and building out that relationship as closely as you can so that you can be in lockstep as things are moving. That's sort of a generic answer. It's not a very specific, tight answer, but I don't think that there is one. Maybe one of these two has the perfect answer for it. If so, please tell me what it is.
I think everybody knows it's both, but I think it's the breakdown between, is it 70, is it 30, you know, that type of kind of, if you get to 100, you know, where do you put your mix? I think that is under that idea, there needs to be some really out there things to get people excited, right? And sometimes they can take a long time to develop. Dayton's Project, Womni, you know, these were things that were multi-year, but they've been building for multi-year, and that makes the splash even more grandiose. So I think that the challenge that we have right now is in terms of figuring out labor shortages and investment and everything else. And I think for small businesses, it's a different calculation than large businesses, obviously, with everything that's coming in. But no great market mix answer in terms of how we put. You know, for us, a lot of this, you know, I would say that we are overwhelmingly going short term because the short term need is so big, you know, looking at 90 days, what is 90 days, and then reassessing and reevaluating. So I would say that we're probably closer to 80-20. Right now, when it comes to like leisure and those sorts of things, our sales teams for large group meetings, we're booking things into 2028, right? We'll be announcing some things in the next couple of months that are 2026 that are big deals, right? So, you know, that's really the long game. 2022 is a pretty full year when it comes to the convention center itself. So, you know, it's a different thing versus a tourist that decides on a Monday to come on a Friday. So that's where you'll see kind of some of that split be a little bit different for us in the next year.
We continue to, you know, try and keep the spotlight on the big events that are coming up, whether it's new development or whether it's sporting events or the Final Four next year, whatever it might be. Knowing that those things are happening, and continue to try and, you know, showcase those and build excitement, but then also continue to have those, you know, day-to-day nudges every day to try and bring people back. And just, you know, it's kind of the subtle push today, and really keeping an eye on what's ahead too, and it does really kind of work together.
Yeah, I love those answers. I think it's so important to plan for the future, but right now is the moment for downtown, right? And there's too much on the line to not invest in the future of downtown. The future of downtown benefits everybody, right? It's the economic engine for our region, and so there is a lot going into this moment for our community and for our downtown and for our region, and so we just invite you to continue to be a part of that. I'd like to be respectful of everyone's time, but it was such a pleasure to have Kaylin and Courtney and Mark with us today. We are so delighted that you decided to leave your office, leave your home, and join us downtown. It is great to see all of the smiling faces here. Just wanted to flag for you that we have our next kind of reanimation series program. We have one coming up on October 14th, which will be around kind of collective workforce return. And then we have another one in this reanimation vein coming up in December, which is around this idea of 1 year later and bringing back kind of our like-minded organizations or peer organizations across the country to kind of have that conversation again around what's happening across the country. So we hope to see you at those. And then just one more plug, the Minneapolis Downtown Council has our annual gala and fundraiser on October 7th. And so if that's something that you would like to be a part of, we would love to see you there. Mary Beth and myself, happy to talk to you about that more. And then in addition to the four of us, a number of colleagues, Dan Carlson, Caitlin Ladensky, Mary Beth Weisberg, Megan Gustafson, Dana Grady, we'd all love to connect with you after if you have a minute to stay around. So thank you so much. Let's give our panel a round of applause. Excellent. Thank you for the reminder. Robert and team have graciously offered to provide tours as well of Lifetime Work. And so if that is something that you would like to do, we highly encourage you to hop on a tour. It's an incredible space, and you should take time to check it out because it is a new gem of downtown. So thank you very much.